Ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge weekend for the world of professional wrestling. In just this weekend alone, we have NXT's Great American Bash, AEW's biggest show of the year, All In, Saturday night's main event, which includes Goldberg's retirement match, and the all-women's show Evolution on the Sunday. And since normally before a major WWE Premium Live event, we do a video where we allow you, the viewers, to submit your predictions, I just said submit your predictions about anything related to wrestling this weekend. So we're gonna go through a bunch of fan predictions about Great American Bash, about Saturday night's main event, Evolution, and yeah, we even got a couple about AEW All-In. So I've grabbed a whole bunch. I'm gonna critique them, roast them, or maybe agree with you, who knows. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm incredibly confident that you're gonna fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Look, if you're gonna be watching wrestling this entire weekend, you're gonna like this channel, all right? You're clearly like really deep into wrestling. By the way, if you do want more than just the content we do here on YouTube, come check out the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's see what you guys sent in. Gunther beats Goldberg after Roman Reigns stops Seth Rollins from cashing in. Goldberg recovers post-match and hits Gunther with a jackhammer. His family raises his hands to close the show. I think one of the most important things to recognize when trying to predict the outcome of Goldberg versus Gunther is that you have to remember that the show is going to end in some way, shape, or form with Goldberg celebrating. He's gonna get his time to get his flowers, to soak in the moment. It's his retirement match. And this is a way for us to be able to get that moment with Gunther still being able to pick up the victory, nothing fundamentally changing about who has the World Heavyweight Championship. We still get the big moment of Seth Rollins going out there and making us believe that we're gonna have a new World Heavyweight Champion, only to have the return of the OTC Roman Reigns. Here's the thing, if Roman Reigns is going to return to have a match at SummerSlam, he kind of, by default, needs to return at Saturday night's main event because of WWE's jam-packed PLE schedule. It doesn't really give Roman Reigns a lot of room to return, build a feud, and have a match at SummerSlam because it's only 3 weeks between Saturday night's main event and SummerSlam Night 1. And whatever Roman Reigns is doing at SummerSlam, if he is doing something at SummerSlam, I think it's a fair expectation for fans to want as much runway as possible, and coming back at Saturday night's main event is what gives Roman Reigns as much runway as possible to get us excited for his match at SummerSlam. Here's the thing, if Roman Reigns does return and he does stop Seth Rollins from cashing in the briefcase, I hope they do it like they did at Night of Champions where it doesn't burn the briefcase, because I still want Seth Rollins to eventually successfully cash in. So I'm ultimately going to say that I think that this is fairly realistic. I think if we were talking about a Saturday night's main event 5 months ago, I would have laughed at you because nothing of importance ever happened at Saturday night's main event. But ever since the last one, they've now set the precedent that big important things can happen at Saturday night's main event. And the return of Roman Reigns, I have to imagine, if they have something planned for him at SummerSlam, has to be on the table. The Becky Lyra Bayley match will be the best match of the weekend in terms of in-ring and storytelling wise, besides Okada and Omega. There are a handful of matches on that AEW All-In card that I think are going to be really hard to top, but I also think that it's going to be really hard to top the work that these three women are going to do. We already know that they're going to have a great match. The chemistry between all three of these women in ring so far has been absolutely stellar, and the chemistry from a storytelling perspective has elevated this match from something that I can't wait to see from an in-ring perspective to something that I just can't wait to see in general, because this is maybe the best built match out of everything that WWE has done post WrestleMania. So yeah, I also agree that it's got the potential to be the best match of the entire weekend, but there are a handful of matches, and you mentioned one of them, Okada Omega, that are definitely going to be vying for that spot, and I would consider to be the favorites to be the best match of the entire weekend. One of the things that AEW is just so good at is delivering unbelievably good PLEs. You can say what you want about their weekly shows, which I watch every episode, even though we don't make videos about it. They can be hit or miss, but their PLEs, for the most part, knock it out of the goddamn park, even if they are 85,000 hours long. I'm exaggerating, but I do think AEW PLEs run a little long. Blake Monroe turns on Jordynne Grace at Great American Bash. Jordan finally wins the title at Evolution. Jordan's first feud as champion is against a heel Blake Monroe. So if Jordynne Grace does win the NXT Women's Championship, her first feud can't be Blake Monroe. Her first feud would have to be Masha Slamovich, the Knockouts champion of TNA. And I think because that match exists exist, a winner-take-all match at Slammiversary on July 20th, I think it could change the entire dynamic of how the JC Jane and Jordynne Grace match plays out. Because I think either of them makes sense to win, because JC Jane and Masha Slamovich have been telling a story over the last couple of months. Jordynne Grace has already built history, not just in TNA, but with Masha Slamovich specifically. So they both make perfect candidates for this match at Slammiversary. But I will say, Blake Monroe's heel turn has to be inevitable, right? Like, it must happen at some point or another. I just don't know that they're willing to burn the heel turn as quickly as, what, like 3-4 weeks since her debut on WWE TV? That seems like a little bit too quick. I would rather continue to get more segments between Jordynne Grace and Blake Monroe, truly continue to develop that relationship so that when the inevitable heel turn does happen, it hits and stabs us in the heart even more, much like it stabbed us in the heart, the brain, the freaking spleen, the ass, everywhere when she turned heel on, well, what was already technically a heel in Toni Storm back in AEW. I'm predicting Goldberg wins the title from Gunther, only for Seth Rollins to cash in and beat Goldberg for the World Heavyweight Championship. A lot of people are predicting this. This is probably the most popular prediction that I got in this entire thread, and I just don't think that it's possible. As I've already alluded, I really believe that because this is a retirement match in front of a very pro Goldberg crowd, a crowd that wants to give Goldberg his flowers for his career, I think the show needs to end with Goldberg celebrating and getting his flowers and getting to be able to walk out of the ring under his own power. That is what I think the last image of Saturday night's main event will end up being, and I just don't think that there's room to be able to do that while also inserting a cash-in after Goldberg wins the title. Because think about it, what would it be? Goldberg wins the title, he celebrates, then Seth Rollins cashes in, and then Seth Rollins runs away, and then Goldberg gets his time to shine and get his flowers for his retirement. That sequence just doesn't really make any sense. So because of that, because I'm fully expecting Goldberg to close out the show in a positive manner in a loss, I just don't see the cash-in making sense in that particular environment. Randy will lose to Drew McIntyre, and this will trigger him to go nuts and turn heel. I just want whatever happens between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre to set us up to have a strong Drew McIntyre in the main event scene, while also setting us up to still have a strong Randy Orton in the main event scene, strong enough Randy Orton that could maybe potentially get added into a triple threat at SummerSlam with John Cena and Cody Rhodes, dare I say? And I know that's asking for a lot. Like, asking both of these guys to come out looking better than they went in is a difficult thing to ask out of any WWE match. Here's the other thing. I don't know, man. I feel like Randy Orton turning heel, having that moment where he really crosses the line, I want to see that with Cody, not with Drew McIntyre. But I feel like doing it with Cody would just land so much more and make his heel turn feel even more sinister. This is actually the one match this weekend where I'm like, man, I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea who's going to win, who should win, how it should end. I'm kind of just there for the ride. Io Sky will retain. I appreciate your optimism, but I really don't think that she's going to. And I think there's a couple of valid reasons to point out. One, WWE has not really booked Io Sky as a champion at all since WrestleMania 41. And now they put her up against the most popular WWE superstar that they have in the women's division. Not just that, but make Rhea's entire story about the fact that she hasn't been able to beat Io Sky. To me, it just screams that they want to put the title on Rhea Ripley. And knowing WWE for a show like Evolution, they probably want that big image of Rhea Ripley, again, their most popular asset in the women's division, celebrating with the pyro to close out this all-women's show. I think it's a shame. I think it'd be crazy and kind of a cool swerve if Io Sky were to retain, and I wouldn't be upset at all in the slightest. I really don't see it. Liv finds a way to make sure that Nikki Bella gets eliminated. I love this. I love the idea of reinserting Liv Morgan back into a storyline in some capacity, even if she isn't getting involved in the ring physically at all. I really think that the Judgment Day storyline with Dominic, Roxanne, Raquel, and everyone that's in there would really benefit from having Liv Morgan, even if it's just as an on-screen character that doesn't get in the ring because she's rehabbing. But if she can make herself seen and heard and felt at Evolution, I think that this is a great way to do it. I really love this prediction. Damn! Dude, this match is crazy. Oh my, dude, we are 2 minutes in.
Water veins tied to his neck.
You are gonna die.
Oh! That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week we're looking at maybe one of the best matches I've ever seen, Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis in ECW 1995. The Falls Count Anywhere Hollywood ending match between Mariah May and Toni Storm. Braun Breaker versus Ilya Dragunov versus JD McDonough for the NXT Championship at Halloween Havoc 2022. And the ladder match between John Cena and Dolph Ziggler at TLC 2012. You'll be getting this, plus the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the podcast 3 days early, plus a bunch of other series that are exclusively available to Patreon. So come check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. There's a link in the description or a link in the pinned comment if you're interested in coming over. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. It's because of you that I'm able to do what I do as often as I do it. But now let's get you back into the video. Bold prediction: Bianca returns at Evolution in the Battle Royal and wins it. I think the bigger prediction is whether or not Bianca returns, because I don't think it's much of a bold prediction to say if she's in the Battle Royal that she's going to win, because let me come closer. If she's in the Battle Royal, she's going to win. Look, if Bianca does return, if she's in the Battle Royal, she's going to win, because it just makes sense for the progression of where things are going with the WWE Women's Championship, because outside of everything that happens at SummerSlam, come Clash in Paris, it could probably set us up for Jade Cargill and Naomi and Bianca Belair in a triple threat in front of that Paris crowd. Like, to me, it's like the path is so clear. If Bianca does return, she's going to win. I could see Bianca returning at the show. There's another place that she can return that's not necessarily the Battle Royal, and that is the no holds barred match between Naomi and Jade Cargill. I think it would make total sense for her to return there to set up likely a match between her and Naomi at SummerSlam. There is unfortunately a real possibility that Goldberg beats Gunther for the world title, only to be cashed in on by Seth Franklin Rollins in an attempt to overtake headlines this weekend. Yo, shout out to Seth Franklin Rollins. You really elevated his stock by changing it to freaking to Franklin. I like Franklin more. I'm not even kidding about that. But I think you make a wonderful point there at the end, which is in an attempt to overtake the headlines this weekend. You think that WWE wouldn't do this, but yes, 100% they would. These three shows, Great American Bash, Saturday night's main event, and Evolution, literally just exist to out-headline AEW, so as to hurt their momentum for the biggest show of the year for them. So you don't think it's past WWE to make the biggest headline possible to, again, grab attention away from AEW? Because the biggest headline grabber that they could generate this entire weekend is Goldberg somehow winning. I know, I think the likelihood is super low, but I'm telling you, with the 20 plus years of wrestling that I've been watching, do yourself a service and never believe that nothing is possible, all right? Always believe that there's a possibility that it can happen. Darby Allin will return as a surprise entrant and win the men's casino gauntlet match. I think that's a great shout, a great place for Darby Allin to return after his escapades in Mount Everest. I think you could also have him return in the main event of the show. Listen, that main event between Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley in this Texas death match is going to be their version of Bloodline Rules. I think I could literally list out like 10 people, double digits numbers amount of people, including the likes of Darby, Cope, Bryan Danielson, everyone from the Death Riders, the Young Bucks, Ospreay, Swerve, Willow Nightingale. All of these names could get involved in this match. That match is going to be ridiculously overbooked, and I can't wait for it. And I could see Darby Allin being one of those names that returns during that crazy main event. Haven't seen anyone say this, but Punk gets involved in LA versus Seth, and after the match, either BFT to Punk or GTS to LA. LA versus Punk feud for SummerSlam. Two of WWE's most popular draws who are amazing on the mic. Roman can return on Raw to build to a SummerSlam match with Seth. Yeah, this is hanging on a big what if, right? Like, if Roman Reigns returns, then all of a sudden the plans that I think we were all sort of expecting, which were Punk versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, all of a sudden we need to rethink those, because it should be Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. If Roman returns, and if he does purely exclusively go after Seth Rollins, that does leave a huge void with a huge name named CM Punk. What do you do with CM Punk at SummerSlam if it's not Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns? I think LA Knight would be certainly an interesting option, if not maybe almost the only one. AJ will come back and enter the Battle Royal. Oh man, here we go. It's starting again. Everyone that is just putting all of their chips on the return of AJ Lee are back at it again. Listen, I'm rooting for an AJ Lee return. She is still very young when it comes to wrestling. She's 38 years old. She is still plenty young to get back into a full-time run in the WWE. I would love for her to return. We've been seeing a bunch of teases. They've been mentioning her. Punk has been doing some of her moves. The WWE YouTube page has been uploading some of her old matches. Like, all of the evidence is there for an AJ Lee return in some way, shape, or form, and even she herself has been teasing it. I think that there is room for legends to return. I don't think that they're going to be using as many legends as they have in the past, because now they don't really need to rely on women of the past to put on an all-women show, because they have such a stacked women's roster across all of their different brands. But if there are still some that could contribute in a major way, AJ Lee is one of those names. At Evolution, Naomi cashes in since the match is Trish versus Tiffany, which then goes Jade versus Bianca versus Naomi at SummerSlam for the title. Not really sure how Bianca got into that match, but yeah, I guess it's a possibility that Naomi could cash in and take the title into SummerSlam to give us another rematch between Naomi and Jade Cargill only 3 weeks after it happened. I don't love this. I think the most likely outcome is Naomi cashing in during Jade versus Tiffany at SummerSlam, because at the very least, that cash in, she's cashing in during a match with two people that she has loads of history with and has had many feuds with. Meanwhile, cashing in a match that has Trish Stratus, she has no history or legacy or beef at all with Trish Stratus. I don't think that that's the right place or time. We're going to get the fourth member of Seth's faction, who will be Austin Theory or Karrion Kross. You know what? There's another one related to this, so let's read that one too. Ethan Page will join Seth's faction. Okay, so yeah, here we are. We're back to predicting who is going to debut and who is going to be part of Seth's faction, who is going to be the fourth member, who is going to be Plan B. And listen, the last Saturday night's main event is where they unveiled one of Seth Rollins' faction members in Bronson Reed, so it wouldn't be out of the norm. It would actually be completely on point for them to continue the unveiling of Seth Rollins' faction bit by bit at Saturday night's main event, because it would be a nice continuation of the last one. I think out of all of the names that you mentioned, I think Ethan Page would make the most sense, even though I believe that Ethan Page doesn't need a faction rub. But Karrion Kross, I think he's doing good with his own thing. And Austin Theory, honestly, man, that train left the station so long ago that I would be disappointed at this point if it was Austin Theory. I would prefer to watch AEW All-In than to watch Saturday night's main event and Evolution. And this comes from a person who never really liked AEW, but right now Triple H's booking isn't really working for me. WWE pay-per-views feel rushed now. They feel rushed because, let's just be honest, they are rushed. Look at this summer. It has just been PLE after PLE after PLE. It feels like every episode of Raw and SmackDown are either a go-home episode to a PLE or the episode immediately after a PLE. Meanwhile, AEW pay-per-views are few and far between, and when they do have a pay-per-view, they do a really great job of building it, and they've done a great job of building towards All-In, especially with some of the biggest matches that they have on the card. So if you want to compare All-In to this entire weekend of WWE pay-per-views, All-In is significantly better booked. Now, I would expect that because this is All-In. This is AEW's WrestleMania. This is their biggest show of the year. They need to show out, and WWE is just throwing out BPLEs to try and combat against this. I don't blame you for choosing All-In over whatever WWE is putting on this weekend, because if you're looking to get the best quality wrestling show, I think it's All-In this weekend. Moxley will retain yet again, but this time Darby returns. I think I would turn off AEW for a little while if Moxley won. It's time to end that dreadful championship reign. It is time to put this on Hangman in Texas. I don't think that they need to overthink this. They're gonna overbook it, but I don't think that they need to overthink the result. Like, just put it on Hangman. It's the easiest slam dunk. This is a layup. This is the easiest little jump shot that you've ever taken, AEW. Do not overthink this. Do not continue the Death Riders and Jon Moxley's reign of terror. Seth Rollins brings in Aleister Black into his group alongside Braun and Bronson, as well as online articles stating that Paul Heyman is a huge fan of Aleister, and I think his inclusion would push Black into unimaginable stardom. Oh yeah, I mean, like, this would absolutely be a huge push for Aleister Black. I just don't think he kind of fits the vibe of the group. He's so dark. He's so brooding. I wouldn't buy the argument that he wouldn't, because, you know, his history with Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed is in the group. He literally tried to murder Seth Rollins, so I think it'd be fine. But I just don't think he quite fits the vibe. So I'd rather see, if they're going to push Aleister Black for them to do a push of Aleister Black by himself. Julia and Nikki Bella start a feud in the Battle Royal by costing each other, setting up for a match at SummerSlam. You know what? Why not? Why not? I look at the United States Championship picture and it's what? More Zelina Vega, more Michin, more BFAB. If we want to help cement Julia as this badass of the mid-card with the United States Championship, this is kind of a dope idea. Just have Julia maul Nikki Bella. I know not everybody's a huge fan of Nikki Bella, but in the books, in the history books, she is a WWE Hall of Famer. So to have Julia defend the mid-card title against the WWE Hall of Famer and destroy her, I think would be a great tone setter for the start of Julia's initial run as United States Champion. I sure as hell would prefer that over anything else that's currently a viable option on Friday Night SmackDown. Because the other two in Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, which I think would be the best opponents for Julia to really help cement that mid-card, I think they're going to be busy for a while because I think they're going to win the tag titles at Evolution. Not at all likely, but I would love to see the return of an absolute legend for a spot at Evolution, like Lita, Stacy Keibler, Tori Wilson, Ivory, Molly Holly, or Jacqueline. You're definitely going to get returns of legends, but I don't think that it's going to be that deep of a list, mostly because WWE doesn't need to rely on a deep list of women's legends to pad out an entire women's roster of a show. You look at what's on NXT, what they have on Raw, what they have on SmackDown. If they wanted to bring in some people from Evolve to showcase the future, hell, they could even dip into the women's roster of TNA if they really wanted to. I just don't think that they need to rely on so many of the stars from the past to really demonstrate to the world how awesome their women's roster is in 2025. Don't get me wrong, if these names appear, great, I'll pop, because these are all names from my childhood, all that I recognize. I would pop for Victoria. Everybody knows that I'm a huge fan of Victoria, but I just don't think that they're necessary. All-In Texas would be one of, if not the greatest pay-per-views in the history of wrestling. I mean, that's a bold statement. I think it definitely has the ability to be one of the best pay-per-views of the entire year. All-In general over the last couple of years has truly been a fantastic showcase of professional wrestling. AEW consistently puts on some of the most awesome pay-per-views ever. That's a bold statement though, the greatest pay-per-view in the history of professional wrestling. I don't know about that. LA Knight will win with the interference from CM Punk. Knight uses the win to get a title match at SummerSlam against Gunther and finally wins the World Heavyweight Championship, but Seth cashes in his contract. Knight and Rollins will feud again, but for the World Heavyweight Championship, and their feud will go till the end of 2025. Yeah, this is exactly the booking that I think that makes sense, that I think they could realistically do, which is LA Knight winning because of Punk, using that win to elevate himself to getting a World Heavyweight Championship, finally winning that World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam. Good things come to those that way. Confetti is flying down, and then Seth Rollins, the guy that he beat a couple of weeks earlier, cashes in and breaks the heart of LA Knight and all the fans. I think that's a perfect story to tell, and honestly, I kind of hope that's what they end up doing. Look, at least it would not be Gunther versus Jey Uso or Sami Zayn again. At least it's somebody new and somebody that most fans really like. Josh Briggs turns a heel, leading to a feud between him and Yoshiki. Oh yeah, this is definitely going to happen. I would love if in some crazy world Yoshiki Inamura actually won the NXT title, because I really like that guy, man. I think he is so likable. I really like his moveset. I adore his finisher, and I would like to see a feud between him and Josh Briggs, and if it was somehow for the NXT title, even better. A cherry on top of Yoshiki Inamura beating Obafemi, to me, would signal Obafemi going to the main roster, which I think would be fucking awesome. Paige will return in the Battle Royal. I know people are like, no, she's not. She's already said that she's not going to be there, dude. How many times have we seen that play out before? A wrestler saying they're not going to be part of a major show, only to, surprise, they actually are part of the major show. Don't listen to them, all right? Don't listen to them. They might be just playing you. They might be lying to you. We'll just see once the dust settles who was right and who was wrong. But Paige, when we talk about people returning, I think this is a perfect name to come back. I would prefer a Paige returning over some of those Ruthless Aggression era names that were mentioned earlier on in this video. Especially if we get a Paige and AJ Lee moment in the Battle Royal. How sick would that be? Masha Slamovich has a stare down with JC Jane or Jordan Grace. This has to happen, right? At the very minimum, I'm expecting Masha Slamovich to be front row for this match because we need to immediately continue to set up a feud between Masha Slamovich and whoever wins here, because the next show for TNA Slammiversary is 8 days later. So I think that this is a almost guaranteed that it's going to happen. I am expecting Masha Slamovich switch there. Rhea Ripley will win the Women's World Championship. People need to not be pressed about it, because if things move right, she can feud with Raquel Rodriguez, Roxanne Perez, Alexa Bliss if she goes to Raw, Stephanie Vaquette, and even more. Okay, let me turn it around on you. Like, what if they allowed Io Sky to feud and have matches with all of the same people that you listed there? Because I'm with you. I think that Rhea Ripley can have a fun run if they actually give her a rotating cast of different villains to have different matches against. But it's a shame that they wouldn't do that for Io Sky. There's so many options for Io Sky to have had little micro feuds or full-fledged feuds in the lead up to this show between WrestleMania and now. Like Io Sky versus any of these names, Io Sky versus Ivy Nile. Why didn't we run with any of it? Why didn't we try with Io Sky? I certainly hope that if Rhea Ripley does win, that we get what you're suggesting here, not just rehashing the same thing over and over and over and over again for Rhea Ripley. I think they kind of have to dip into a different well because Liv Morgan is in there, and I don't know that people are gonna particularly be cool with just another Io Sky Rhea Ripley match over and over again. There will be wrestling. Oh my God, yeah, there will be a lot of wrestling. I think it's what, 3 hours of Great American Bash. I would probably put All In at 5 to 6 hours. Let's conservatively say 6 hours for All In, 2 hours for Saturday night's main event, and an extra 3 for Evolution. We're looking at around 13 to 14 hours of professional wrestling. So I hope you like wrestling, because there's going to be a lot of wrestling. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching today's video. Again, you can join us this entire weekend across YouTube, Twitch, and Kick if you want to have some friends to watch wrestling with and geek out about the show as it happens. You guys take care. Be wonderful people. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers. Stay hydrated and drink some coffee this weekend, okay?